we have Twinkle Khanna promoting a film after very, very long, promoting herself, promoting Padman, and what will turn out to be perhaps your best interview.
I really don't know about that, but yeah, we'll...
So, the first thing that you told me is that you are kind of like not in the most comfortable zone at this point, and that you'll get there. To get you more comfortable, I'm going to ask you the biggest cliche of your life.
Okay.
A question that you've been asked since you were a kid in kindergarten.
Okay.
Twinkle, are you named after the nursery rhyme?
The apocryphal tales of my childhood would say that I was named because it rhymed with sprinkle and sparkle, and luckily I'm not named Wrinkle, which is a good thing.
Why? What's the difference?
I think Wrinkle would be slightly worse than Twinkle. At least here you're shining, there you're sagging. There's a difference. Having said that, for a very long time, I did not like my name and I fought against it. But like everything else in my life, I guess my perspectives are as influenced by literature and life. I read a book, Jhumpa Lahiri's Interpreter of Maladies.
Right.
And there's a short story in that where there's this girl who has a very fancy Bengali name. And she's newly married and she insists on introducing herself to everybody as Twinkle. That's her pet name. And her husband keeps telling her, why are you doing that? You know, tell them your name, whatever, Tanumma, whatever it is.
Right.
And she's very popular and she's
It's a Bengali pet name.
Yeah, she's very popular and very cool and she insists on going by this name. So I said, well, if she can do that and she's fictional, I can pull it off as well. And that was it. So I embraced
Was there a relation
it.
to that and you in terms of... did you ever meet Jhumpa Lahiri Askar?
No, I didn't. But yeah, I think she probably... Because there was also one paragraph which said that, you know, there was an actress in Bombay called Dimple. So I guess she kind of figured that out.
There's reference
there was
to
some
you.
reference,
Okay.
but... I don't know whether it was directly to me, but it did change my perspective towards my name.
Right, because the other name that you're known by is Mrs. Funny Bones.
I seem to have a penchant for really strange names, but yes.
And that would obviously be because you have a funny bone. But what I hear, or what I've read, is that it's because you're also accident prone and that you've broken a lot of bones. Is that true?
Yeah, I've broken both my legs, my arms, my collarbone. I limp for most of my life. Strangely enough, actually after 40 I stopped limping, so I don't know, some things do get better with age. But it was both things. But Mrs. Funny Bones wasn't something that I had planned, and it was just a handle I made. I thought I'd anonymously troll people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And but the day when I decided to join Twitter, they didn't have Twinkle Khanna. Apparently somebody already had taken that name. So I didn't really want to be the one and only Twinkle Khanna. That sounds really bad. Or, you know, the real. So I just had this handle and...
but you put your name there, right? You didn't start out being anonymous.
No. And then, because I had saved that, that's what I was going to do.
Right.
I did join Twitter right in the beginning when everybody else did. And one of my first tweets, in fact, you know, the politician had been slapped. At that point of time. So my first tweet was, what a slap surgery. So my family immediately said that I think you should get off this platform because it's not really for you. And then when I decided to join, like I said, it was a last minute thing and Mrs. Funny Bones was handy and there I was.
Right. So when you have a name like Mrs. Funny Bone, right, you also write a column which is intrinsically funny. I mean...
yeah.
Like there is the underlying layer of humor across satire, if you may. Is it too much of a pressure all the time to be funny then?
Okay, so in this persona of Mrs. Funny Bones, and I do hide behind that. That's not really me, right? It's a projection. The good thing is that I'm not supposed to be amiable. I'm just supposed to be funny. And cracking lame jokes is much easier for me than minding my P's and Q's. So I think I'm all right there. I used to feel the pressure right in the beginning, but then I realized that I just have to be myself. So every time, even like on a day like this, before I come here, I sit down, I do my yoga, and I tell myself, all I have to do is be myself, and that's it. And really, how wrong can you go with that? So
one of the reasons you said that you developed a sense of humor is because you're a little kid called Twinkle.
The thesis on me, what have you done? What kind of
What's the point? Like,
I tried to Google you, I couldn't find anything. I didn't know what, you know, I was like, where is he from? And I assumed Rajasthan, you were born in Delhi, you moved here.
That wasn't me, there's some other man.
you had a relationship, I don't know whether you're still single or whatever.
There.
Yeah, so I Googled you, right? And that's about all the information I got. And look at what you've done.
That's the difference between you and I. There's a difference between a celebrity and non-celebrity. So here's the deal, since we are in the couch. You said that because you were fat and humor was a defense mechanism.
Yes.
Is that cliche really true about fat people being funny?
It's not about fat people being funny. It's about odd people being funny.
Okay.
It's about finding a way to fit in, about finding a way to make fun, of other people before they attack you.
Sure.
So I was never, how conventional could I be? I was in a position where people were either really nice to me because of who my parents were, or they were really mean because of who my parents were. I had an odd name. I was the fattest girl in my class, which was wonderful because I could beat up everyone else as well. I just sit on them and they'd be like, oh, help. So that was fine. So I think some cliches do come out of facts.
Right.
So if you are an oddball, and I'm really, really lucky I was an oddball, because if I was the conventional prom queen, what would I be doing right now? I would be, grappling, because I'd be looking at a position where I'm in my 40s. The thing I banked on is depleting, and what would I hold on to? So luckily I never had that to bank on, and I had to develop other skills.
But the bit about how fat people always need to be funny, is that
it's not fat people, like, again I'm telling you, it's not fat people.
I don't mean, you know where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah, but
I don't mean it like in a shaming sort of way. We can call them overweight if you like, but let's say if there's a stand-up comedian, right? And regardless of their shape or size or whatever, they're a headache to hang out with in social setups.
Yeah.
Because every time you say something to them, they're thinking of what their response should be. They want to be funny in every sentence. Does that become a thing?
Well, it describes me as well.
It does?
Yeah, unfortunately. And I try very hard now. So, like I said, I do my yoga so that I can
to
say,
tell yourself just have a be.
Yeah, just it's all right. I don't have to have the punchline. I don't have to have the last line. Again, I'm really getting disturbed by this fact that you're going on saying this fat people thing. It's not about fat people.
Sure.
It's just about people who are different.
Who are oddballs, right.
And who are happy being different.
Right. Right. The other thing is, because we're talking about humor, is the sense that most of us get is a depleting sense of humor in general in society.
You're telling me about it.
Right.
Yeah.
You feel so?
I definitely think so.
Okay.
But I'm divided on that. There are certain things that I feel are not politically correct, and things are changing, and the jokes that we used to make are not okay anymore.
Right.
The other side of me...
You mean the political correctness side?
Yeah, and culture and, discrimination and racism and all of these things. I mean, our funniest jokes used to be about other people, right? The other side of me is sad that we're losing that. So I'm divided about this. I think some part of me thinks, yes, it's right that we have to be more politically correct. And some part of me is, I'm losing opportunities.
No, but then there's that other element where you just can't make fun of holy cows and they just seem to grow on a daily basis. Or is that a social media thing?
I really don't know. My bio says that, nothing is sacred except laughter, and that why do all Hindu boys worship their mothers? Because their religion tells them to worship the cow. So I really I'm the wrong person to talk to about, holy cows.
You went vote for this?
No.
No?
No. I wasn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Because the other thing when it comes to, because we're talking about holy cows, all puns intended, is the fact that, and because you write opinion, one of the things that happened to opinion in general is that everything is being boxed right now. Yes. And that individual opinion is being reduced or diminished, in a sense of into labels. We're turning into labels. So someone is a libtard, the other person is a bhakt, the third person is a left liberal, or, and so on and so forth. Is that something that you notice?
Yeah.
And think about?
I do notice that, and I also, see that if you write something which is slightly left liberal, as we'd call it, then you get trolled majorly. So I have a formula. Once I was writing about, about soldiers and building a nation of tyranny on corpses of soldiers. So I decided that I'm going to begin this column by saying ornithologists claim that, they see a certain distinction in birds. I didn't get trolled because most people didn't understand ornithologists.
Right, you used words that the bugs
and they just left it. They didn't bother reading it, and I didn't get trolled.
Right.
So Again, now see, you're the one making all these distinctions. Bucks will not read ornithologists.
I'm saying this is where we've reached. I'm not disagreeing with the fact. It's really that. It really is.
Fat people and bucks, okay, fine.
Okay, you're going after me. You're going after me. But especially, like, say, there's a big difference, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, between you and your husband, where at least politically and socially, both of you seem pretty different in terms of your worldview. Would that be correct to say?
I would say that our political ideologies, social ideologies, our sense of humors are very, very different. And what's to me interesting about this relationship is the fact that after the first few years, we gave up trying to change each other. And what we did instead is that we started learning from each other. And luckily, all his strengths are my weaknesses, and my weaknesses are his strengths. So instead of saying that he should be more like me, and why should he be more like me? What am I going to learn if he's like me? You know, I really believe 2 peas in a pod died of inertia. So we are not 2 peas in a pod, and we keep growing because of that, because we rub off each other. And for me, that is the most interesting part of our relationship.
But what about political views? Do you feel you feel the need to sort of influence him, or he feels the need to influence him?
I feel the need to voice my political views, and he feels the need to voice his. But aside from that, he's free as anybody else. I mean, I can't influence you, and I should not influence you. I will definitely tell you what I think. But beyond that, it's up to you. Just because I'm in a relationship with you, a very intimate relationship, you're the father of my children, that still doesn't mean that I need to influence you in any way. I think that's where marriages fail, because you keep trying to change the other person into a clone of you. It's not possible.
But he is kind of protective so far as your opinions are concerned. I mean, he's mentioned this before, but how you show him and he'll tell you, okay, don't go this far, right?
Okay, so you have to see we have 2 different brains. My brain is like clothes thrown in a washing machine. It's whirling, chaotic. His thoughts are neatly folded in the closet of his mind. I need his stability to hem me in. He needs me to push him out of his comfort zone. So when he comes and he tells me that, I think you have to be a little careful.
Why do I feel like I'm reading a column of yours? Is this exactly like fully worded? Sorry.
I'm smart. You don't get to meet many people as smart as me, I guess.
We'll get to that. I have a question to that too. Yeah.
So I feel that in that situation, he's trying to protect me from the fact that we'd have people coming and throwing stones.
Right.
At our house or doing something like that. So that's about it. And I appreciate that, because really I would sometimes get into a lot of trouble on my own.
Right, because, I mean, at the end of the day, you represent what would be considered quote-unquote soft power, right? Fame, you've lived under limelight pretty much since you were born. And soft power inevitably becomes a soft target. Celebrities do. What is the worst targeting that you've faced in terms of your writing or your opinion in general?
I mean, are you talking about the normal stuff that people on Twitter say to you, aside from
sometimes
trying
these things
to rape
actually
and
going
kill
from
you and
online
all
to
those
offline,
things?
right? Some things actually do spill over?
I had some elderly lady who met me in a hospital when I was waiting for my mother-in-law's test, who kept coming and asking me, why? What do I have against Yogi Adityanath? And I'm like, ma'am, and I'm standing up because she's old, and I'm like, this is really not the right time to talk to me about this. I'm in a hospital waiting for some test results. But she was like, that's not correct. What do you have to say about Yogi Adityanath? Right now, I have nothing to say. Here's an oxygen mask.
I didn't use the word bug. No.
I don't know if she was, but she was there.
But that's something that you would have grown up with, right? I mean, with excessively famous parents, and I'm sure some spotlight. Even when you're a little kid, you're sort of used to people intruding into your space, or at least I've seen it all your life in another form, perhaps.
I've seen it all my life, but it's not something, that I've tried to stay away from the spotlight as much as possible. For a long time, in fact, I think I decided that was not what I wanted to do at all, despite being born there, and I, that was not my choice. But getting married to a movie star was my choice, and I knew that I was going to be in the spotlight then. But it's not something that I'm very comfortable with. I prefer, sitting behind my desk. That's my life. But when I'm pushed out there, I do have the abilities, and I've developed them over the years to deal with things like that.
Like, one of the things that you mentioned is how a challenge in your life was to be normal.
Yes.
What does that mean? What's normal?
Two things. One, I can't ever say that I had a normal life. I had a very turbulent life, first of all. I went from, living in this mansion with convertible cars going to school to shifting to my grandmother's house where my sister and me were sleeping on a mattress, on the floor. And then I was going everywhere in rickshaws, which I actually love. And my friends had nicknamed me Rickshaw Rani for some reason. Till the day I signed my first movie and I got my signing amount and I paid a down payment for my car, a white Esteem. That was like a big thing. I could have borrowed my mother's car. It's not like, I was compelled to do that, but we were raised in that way where seeing my mom working as a single woman, she was not only raising me, but she was looking after, 3 siblings and my grandparents. I realized very early that I needed to be financially independent and I had to stay that way my whole life. I couldn't be dependent on anyone. So I don't know whether that really was, if I have any semblance of a normal life in that way.
I mean, I read a column of yours where you talk about being on a train. It's 1989. It's a beautiful column about the...
Yes, I remember that.
I didn't know that you would be taking trains around that time.
But how would I go everywhere?
Well, I would imagine like a
But I just told you I didn't have the convertible. Okay. I had it till I was 10 and then it kind of just, vanished.
Right.
So... but more than that, like I said, it was a work ethic, it was a mindset, it was what I was watching. I went to boarding school, which was the most defining time of my life. I went from being this complacent child who came, last in a class of 37 to kind of never after that not being among the top 3. And it was just that. So my brain didn't change. And this is what I really think about children, we judge them on so many bases.
Right.
And it's circumstances that propel them. It's not just their inherent abilities. So I'm really lucky that, in fact, every misfortune at that point, which I thought was devastating, turned out to be my assets. And that, I think, I'm very grateful for.
Right, because, here's the thing, right? So the other day I was talking to someone and telling them about we were having a conversation on parenting. And I was telling them about how, and this is a post-Three Idiots effect, right? But how everyone is being told to follow their passion, as if passion only rests in the arts, as if you can't be passionate about mathematics, right? Or science or whatever else. And I was telling these guys that I think we've reached a point where there will be a kid who will tell his parent that I want to be an engineer, and the parent will tell the kid, no, you should become a poet. And then I hear an anecdote, which is exactly that happened to you.
Yeah.
The fact that you scored 97 in math.
I want to become a chartered accountant.
And your mom said no.
Yeah, no, she just didn't even pay attention to that. It was thrown out of the window. I applied for my entrance exams. I was in SYBCom by then. And that was it. And, I would keep getting these offers. There was some time machine with Shekhar Kapoor and I said no. And it kept on, kept coming. And... but nobody thought that this is what, or I was writing at that point as well, but nobody thought that was worth
anything. So it was clear to your parents or to your mom that it would be the movies? You're wasting your time and everything else?
Exactly.
Really?
No, she told me one thing. She told me something that made sense. She said, this is a time that you'll be able to do this. You can't do this later. You can do that later. And it worked out.
I mean, you can't become a CA later.
Not a CA, but I could become a writer later, and I did.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And if I really wanted to become a CA, I could,
You would have defied your parents. I mean, you don't love it that much also. Although you scored 97 math, that's pretty high.
Maths and science were my best subjects.
Wow.
English was really not. But it was not about defying them. It was about doing what needed to be done at that point. And like I said, I really wanted to get financially independent very quickly, and this was a good way.